Y como verán aquí en el Pumpkin Plan, yo dije que va a ser, que creo que va a ser el siguiente Michael Gerber. No sé si vieron el comentario. Michael Gerber diciendo, ¿cómo puede ser que no se me ocurrió a mí? Me gustó muchísimo el review de Michael Gerber. Guy Kawasaki, super review. Seth Godin, ya autores de mucho renombre, incluyendo su mamá. Vean el comentario, la mamá está padrísimo. Es un hombre muy guapo, diciendo la mamá. Aparte de Mike, de ser una persona muy inteligente, gran emprendedor, eh, es una persona con un gran sentido humano y es muy creativo. Entonces, creo que va a estar muy divertido. Hey, Mike, you're there. How are you? I need to, Mike Michalowicz, here, on mute.
I'm
Now
on
let's
mute.
give Mike, let me give you control. Boom. All right. Hey, Mike, how are you? Can you hear as well?
Screens are flashing.
Mike, I already gave you control. And, yeah.
Can you hear me?
We cannot hear you, Mike. Wait a second. Let me just change the... Huh. Yeah, hey, we cannot hear you. I already unmute you, and we can hear you, Mike.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, we can't hear you. Ready? Hey, Mike, how are you?
All right, let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect. Works great.
Okay. I'm going to try to put my headset on. Hold on one second.
All right.
All right.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me now?
Well. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what it was. I want to see if you can see me. You're seeing my screen, but maybe we can activate my camera here. Yep. No, it doesn't look that way. Okay. I will.
All right. This is you. Woohoo!
Okay, we got it. So I don't know if you can see me. It doesn't seem my camera's behaving, my video. But
no,
you can see.
Your video, but you can see. We can see your slide. Yeah, your computer.
You can see my website. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, do you want me to get started, Daniel?
Yeah. Floor is all yours. I was already introducing you before you came into the line. And hey, welcome, Mike Michalowicz. Pruning Plan, new book, just launched it last week. Great book, 24 as of last week in the ranking of Amazon's of Entrepreneur's Book. Congratulations on your great launch. And thank you very much for taking some time for Capital Emprendedor audience. So please, tell us, Mike.
Thank you, my brother, mi hermano. I appreciate it. It's the success of the book right out of the gate has been tremendous, and it's not only in part because of you, but in a major part because of you and our friends in helping me spread the word about it. And I think there's a really novel message in there, and what I wanted to do today, Daniel, over the next maybe 30 minutes or so, is just share some of the insights and how they came about on growing a colossally successful business. And what happened for me, it was the most bizarre thing. It was, many years back, maybe 15 years ago, I had started my first company. And we were doing computer networks. And I had grown it to roughly $200,000 or $300,000 in annual revenue, US dollars. And I thought that when a company was of that size, that was representative of how much income the entrepreneur was making, like how much I was taking home. But that's not true. $200,000 or $300,000 of corporate revenue, at least for me, represented $0 in personal take home. I'll never forget I had a receptionist at that point, and she was making $25,000 a year, which was $25,000 more than me. And out of frustration, out of fear, I couldn't last much longer this way and not making any money, I decided to hire a business coach. And I've only hired one business coach in my life. His name was Frank, because the day I hired him was the day I kept him. I've been using him ever since. And he came to my office to talk with me and my team. When I say team, by the way, I'm referring to about 4 of us in total. It was me and three employees. And we sat around the table discussing the business, and he must have spent 2 or 3 hours with us just asking a gauntlet of questions after questions after questions about the business. And he asked everyone to get up in the room except for me and to leave. The door closes, and he looks at me, and Frank says one thing. He goes, "Mike, you don't want to be that guy." That was literally, Daniel, his first words out of his mouth. He goes, "You don't want to be that guy." And I said, "Well, what guy? What are you talking about?" He goes, "You are going to be that guy who retires regretting his life. You're the guy who's going to end up in the rusty lawn chair in some kind of retirement home with nothing to show for what you've done. No savings. Only thing you've saved up is regret." And I thought for a second, I'm like, this is what business coaches do? I thought they're supposed to tell you how to improve your business, not like degrade you. But that's exactly what Frank did. And he triggered a thought, of course. And I said, "Well, what guy? What guy do I want to be? Why this guy?" And he goes, "Well, Mike, I'm able to predict the future of you and every entrepreneur. And this is true for everyone listening in right now. Our future is very predictable because where we stand today in our business is a direct result of our efforts over the last 5 years. Every action, every decision, everything that we've done has brought us to this exact moment." And Frank it was very clear. He said, if I continued doing what I did for the last 5 years, and there was all indications after interviewing my team and myself that I was continuing to do the same things, he said, I'm going to be 5 years from now in the exact same spot I was today. And in 5 years from that, the exact same spot, 5 years and 5 years, all the way until the day I retire with nothing to show for it. And that scared me. So I said to Frank, I said, well, what do I do? I don't want to be that guy. What do I do? And that's when Frank started sharing all these different tips and strategies, and it was overwhelming of the different things that I could do. He just kind of laid it all on me. And he said another interesting thing during this process. He goes, if you only change your behavior by 5%, if you only do a few things differently, your business will change dramatically. It's those 5% of things that you need to change that result in 95% of the benefit. That will result in the growth of the business and so forth. So Frank started going through this process, and he shared all these different tips and strategies, and it was overwhelming. Until I had this one moment of clarity, and I was home reading the local newspaper, and in there was a story about a colossal pumpkin farmer. These are guys and gals that can grow these pumpkins that weigh like a ton, literally as much as your car. And what caught my eye in that article was the interviewer asked the pumpkin farmer, how do you grow a colossal pumpkin, one of these huge pumpkins? And the pumpkin farmer said, all I do is change 5% of the things I do, and the pumpkin responds with explosive growth. And this was the key that Frank was telling me. If I just change 5% of the things I do, my business will respond with explosive growth. Well, I went on to study pumpkin farmers, this pumpkin farmer in particular. I interviewed him. I studied pumpkin farming for a year, and I discovered the strategies that pumpkin farmers use to grow colossal pumpkins, which is very similar to what you and I can do to grow a colossal business. And I subsequently did it, and my business took off. I'll have to share some of those stories in a second. So what I wanted to do in the next 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes or so, is share very quickly the 5 things that colossal pumpkin farmers do that entrepreneurs do too to grow colossally successful businesses. The first thing is seed selection. Do you know the ordinary pumpkin farmer, when it comes to growing pumpkins, what they do is they just get as many cheap seeds as possible. It's a quantity game. The more seeds you have, the more seeds you can plant, the more likely you're to grow pumpkins. So the ordinary pumpkin farmer plants seeds everywhere. Well, the colossal pumpkin farmer is highly selective of their seed. They're not in the quantity game, they are in the quality game. The colossal pumpkin farmer picks a seed based upon its ability to sync up with the soil, for its ability to leverage the climate. If you're in a hot climate, they get seeds for hot climates. If you're in a cold climate, you get seeds for cold climates. The Colossal farmer spends a lot of time picking the perfect seed that has the most potential to grow. Now, the ordinary entrepreneur, interestingly enough, is also in a quantity game. The ordinary entrepreneur plants as many seeds as possible. And seeds are often called trends. So at least where I am in the New York area, the most recent trends were in the last 10 years ago, it was real estate. Everyone was getting into real estate because that was where the money was at. And entrepreneurs were jumping into house flipping and all these different ways of making money quickly. Well, when that dried out, they fell by the wayside. Then the hot thing became web design. All these people were jumping into web design and doing Flash and so forth. And now, most recently, the trend, the easy seed, if you will, is social media. Everyone and their mother seems to be a social media specialist nowadays. Well, that's what the path is of the ordinary entrepreneur. The extraordinary entrepreneur who grows a colossal business focuses on a special seed. And this is how you identify the seed for your own business. It's actually an overlap of three things, kind of like the Olympic symbols. You know, the Olympics are coming up in London soon, and you will see the Olympic symbol as those circles, and they overlap. The first circle in identifying your perfect seed is what are you passionate about? Meaning, what gets you up in the morning and gets you excited? And when you go to bed at night, what has given you more energy through the day? Now, I'm not saying physical energy. Whatever work you do, if you work hard at it, you are going to be physically tired. But at the end of the day, you are doing something that you're passionate about if your mind is energized, if you're thrilled about what you're doing. If most days of the week you get up and you're totally excited and can't believe you're doing what you do, that is a field of passion. Now, the problem is if you do only what you're passionate about, but there's no customer interest, you're screwed. No one's going to want to do business with you. Customers have to have demand for what you have. So the second part of the perfect seed for your business is overlapping your passion overlapped by a customer demand. And where those circles intersect in the middle, that is the beginning of the seed. So, for example, one of my passions is guitar. I like to play guitar. I love it. The thing is, I'm not that good of a guitarist whatsoever, and therefore there's no customer demand. So I can play to my heart's content guitar. I will never make money at it. But other musicians, Eddie Van Halen from Van Halen, one of my favorite all-time bands, has a passion for guitar, but also there's a customer demand for how he played music and his style. There's a perfect overlap. The third part, though, to the seed is what's called scalability. And if you put one more circle in there where they all intersect, it's your passion, customers' demand for what you have, and your ability to scale it. And simply put, what scaling means is can you deliver your product or service while you're sleeping? What I mean is, can your business generate the sale, market to the customer, generate the sale, deliver the product or service, and get positive customer feedback without your involvement? If you can get your business to that point, you've now achieved scalability. And that's the perfect seed. You love what you do, customers want what you love to do, and you can do it without being there. You can teach other people and other things to do the system, and now it has infinite potential growth abilities. That is the seed of a colossal business, and that's what I found. I've studied hundreds of entrepreneurs that have grown colossally successful businesses. They all had this overlap, this intersection of passion, customer demand, scalability. Now, the second part of growing a colossal pumpkin is the sprout analysis. Do you know when the sprouts start coming out? This is the very beginnings of the plant. The ordinary entrepreneur, he looks for the weak sprouts. If the sprouts are coming up and they're weak, he has to water it some more. He has to loosen the soil so that the roots can maybe dig in deeper and the leaves can get more sun exposure. The interesting thing is the extraordinary entrepreneur, the extraordinary farmer who grows the colossal pumpkins, he doesn't focus on the weak. He actually ignores the weak sprouts and puts all his attention on the strong ones. And the reason behind it is the strong sprouts are showing the most potential for growth. Those are the ones that can go the furthest, have the most potential to go the most distance. Well, when it comes to entrepreneurship, ordinary entrepreneurs focus on their weak customers. You know that one customer you have that the phone rings, you're like, oh, adios mio, not this person. Do I really have to answer the call? And then you pick up the phone and you just cringe. Those are the weak customers. Inevitably, by the way, the weak customers often pay us the least money, but take the most time. They require the most attention, yet they yield the least money. It's the best customers that have the most potential for growth, and customers like them. Now, could you imagine taking your one ideal customer and then replicating them? Could you pick your #1 customer right now, and could you envision having 100 of them or 1,000 of them? If you could duplicate and clone your best customer 100 times, I suspect everyone on this call would have a multi-million-dollar business, a business that's dramatically bigger than it is currently. Maybe a business approaching the hundreds of millions. Well, the colossal entrepreneur, and when I say colossal, it doesn't necessarily just mean size-wise. It could just be remarkable, a niche leader. The colossal entrepreneur focuses on their best client and then ultimately replicating their best client, their strongest sprout, because they know the clients that have the best potential, that are already showing that they're the best, are the ones who can grow the most. Now, I just want to give you guys a quick tool to identifying your best customers. I encourage all of us to list our customers by revenue, historical revenue. So you write down the revenue history of your clients by least, from most to least, over the last 2 years. Who brought in the most revenue over the last 2 years to the least? And you'll notice your best clients are typically at the top. The reason is clients speak their demands, their real interest in you through the revenue that they spend with you, the money they spend with you. In other words, if you ask a customer, what do you think of my service? They may say you're great, just to be socially graceful, but they may not spend that way. Customers that buy from you repeatedly are demonstrating that they love you. So you want to sort your customers out by revenue. Now you make a second column in this chart too with smiley faces. And I put smiley faces next to the customers that I love. I may have a top customer that spends a lot of money with me, but they make me cringe every time they call. Maybe they're very litigious. Maybe there's something about them that just doesn't resonate with my company culturally. They may be a big revenue spender, but if I don't like them, I'm inherently not going to provide the best service level to them or the best products to them. So you want to match up your best, highest customers to spend the most money with you with the customers you love the most. Those represent your top customers. Those are the ones you want to spend all your attention on. Once you identify your best customers, by the way, take them out for lunch. Spend a day with them. Learn everything you can about them. This, by the way, was the first significant technique I did in my first business. As I told you, we were doing a couple $100,000 in revenue. We were a computer company. We'd set up computer networks. And I identified my best customer was a hedge fund. It was a financial company. Now, quite frankly, I still don't even really know what hedge funds do, but they were a hedge fund. And what I did was I interviewed this one hedge fund who was my best customer and asked everything about them. What can I do to service you better? Where do you guys hang out? What events do you go to? I learned everything about the hedge fund industry and started focusing all my attention on them. By the way, the weak customers here, as I just identified the weak ones, those I started removing from my list, meaning I wouldn't service them anymore. I prioritized my best clients. So if my best client called this hedge fund, I would answer the phone, do the work for them, and if it was my weak clients, I was either turning them away or at least not servicing them as well and not paying as much attention as was to my top clients. So you want to service your best clients the most. Ironically, like I said, those weak clients that spend very little money with you, they take up a huge amount of time. When you get rid of them, or maybe you can even fire them, turn them over to your competitors. When you get rid of them, it frees up a tremendous amount of time for you and your colleagues, for your business, and now you can focus more energy on these top clients and then in cloning the top clients. Okay, third step in growing colossal pumpkin is the watering process. You know what's interesting about the ordinary pumpkin farmers? They use these mass watering systems. If you drive by any farms, wherever you live in the world, you drive by farms, you'll see these massive irrigation and watering systems. Well, those are necessary to grow ordinary pumpkins. You have to water everything. Again, they are in the quantity game. They will never grow a colossal pumpkin, but they'll keep on watering many small pumpkins. Well, the colossal pumpkin farmer, she focuses her attention on the strong sprout that's taking off and waters it frequently, usually 5 to 10 times more frequently than those giant watering systems. Now, the other interesting thing is those giant watering systems, because since they only water like once a day, they can often drown plants. They can put too much water on a plant or sometimes too little water. But by watering frequently, the colossal pumpkin farmer can always keep the thirst quenched of that colossal pumpkin, and the pumpkin starts responding with explosive growth. Well, why is this important to us as entrepreneurs? You know, the ordinary entrepreneur, they water everywhere. They go to the commerce events, they go to networking events, they join all these different groups, they advertise here, they advertise there. They water everywhere. And effectively, no customers are being watered enough. Or maybe one type of customer is being overwatered and it's irrelevant. But the colossal entrepreneur focuses on their best clients and starts watering where those best clients are. So for me, the example was with hedge funds. Once I identified my best client was a hedge fund, I wanted to start cloning them. If I could just get 5 more of my best client, I would be making some serious money. So I took out, the hedge fund was called Appaloosa, by the way. I took out Larry, he was the CFO at Appaloosa, for lunch, and I said, where do you guys hang out? Where do hedge funds hang out? And it ended up, there's 2 conferences in the U.S. every year. One is in Greenwich, Connecticut, maybe about 2 hours from where I live, not even. And there's one in Laguna Beach out in California. And he says, that's where all the hedge funds meet for an annual, a semi-annual conference or whatever. So I said, great. I dropped out of all the other activities I was doing, and I joined those 2 conferences. I said, well, what magazines do you have? What newsletters? They only had one. I said, great. I'm going to advertise in that magazine only, and I'm going to write articles for it. I started concentrating all my watering/marketing efforts on this tight area. What happened was I started attending so frequently that these hedge funds started recognizing me. And this ties into behavioral psychology. How it works is the more often we see something, the more we naturally trust it. A perfect example is with Coca-Cola. As the Olympics come up, I know you're going to be watching the Olympics and you're going to see a Coca-Cola commercial come when they come to commercial break. Well, the power of those commercials is Coca-Cola knows you and I are not going to go running to the store the second we see a Coca-Cola commercial, but they do know that the more often the Coca-Cola label is in front of us, the more often we see that logo, when you and I do go to the supermarket, we decide to buy some soda, and we go and we see a Coca-Cola next to a generic soda, we're likely to buy Coca-Cola, even though it costs $1 more. Now, the thing is, logically, we know Coke and the generic soda is the exact same thing. Sugar, water, it's sugar, it's carbonated water, and caramel color. But because we've seen Coke so much that's imprinted in our mind through frequency that we feel it's a safer bet. We trust it more and we go with it. Well, if you concentrate on the areas that your best customers are going, you're going to achieve that same frequency. And the good news is you don't need the budget of Coca-Cola. You have a very small budget. Just attend where your best customers are going regularly. So over the next years of my business, I went to the hedge fund conferences. And just by doing this alone, and within the first year, I picked up 5 or 6 new clients that were just like my best client. That was real big money. In that one technique alone, my revenues went from $200,000 to $300,000 to almost $1 million by focusing in on the areas my best clients went to. Now, the next strategy, and this is probably my favorite because so many entrepreneurs don't get this and don't do this right. The next thing we did was we focused in on what's called the root system. You know, the ordinary pumpkin farmer, they focus on the leaves, the foliage. They look at the plant and they say, hey, is there any blight, meaning is there any disease? Is there any insects on it? And they throw some pesticides on it. The funny thing is the most vital part of a plant isn't the leaves. If the leaves break or snap off, new leaves will often grow. There's so many leaves that some leaves can go away naturally. It's the root system that's the most important part of the pumpkin plant, just like it is any plant. If the root system gets severed or damaged, the entire vine, the entire plant will die within a day. So in business, ordinary entrepreneurs are focusing on, unfortunately, they focus on the leaves or the foliage, which is client referrals. And maybe you've even been taught this. You service a client, you finish the work, and then you say, hey, how was my service? And if the client says your service was good, you then say, well, great, can you refer me to some of your friends or family so I can do service for them also? Now, Think about that. You just took money out of your customers' hands, and you're basically telling them, that's not enough. I also need you to refer me to friends and family and acquaintances. Customers are very hesitant to do this and likely won't. That's focusing on the leaves. There's a better way, and it's focusing on the roots. And this is what colossal entrepreneurs do, and you can do too. Here's the strategy. When you do work for a customer, ask them not for other clients. Ask them, who are the other vendors you depend upon? Who else does services your account? So when I went out with Larry from Appaloosa, I asked him, I said, what other vendors do you use? He says, well, we use Goldman Sachs, and we use a company that makes trading desks. All hedge funds need that. He goes, well, why do you even want to know, Mike? And I tell him, I said, well, if I can meet these vendors, I can find ways to service you better. Maybe I'm doing work that will complement what they're doing, and collectively we can service you even better. So Larry from Appaloosa was very excited to refer us to other vendors. Well, I met with these vendors, and it was an easy meeting to get, because I said, hey, we have a mutual client, and Larry, we both provide services for him. Why don't we get together and see how we can work together and collaborate and service Larry better? Well, this one company I met with who made the trading desk, it was an amazing meeting. I went out there, and he goes, I've been waiting to meet with you. Because he goes, when you and your guys come out to set up computers, you're installing the computer cables in the wrong spot. There's special conduit or tubing in these tables that you're supposed to use. You guys aren't using it. Just do this. Well, we made that one change, and it was noticeably more efficient. We had less problems. Our guys could get their work done faster. There was less problems when moving or expanding the desk. So even Larry, our client, was excited to see that we were now working hand in hand with this trading desk company, and we were more efficient. But here was the real beauty. We started understanding how to set up computers on a trading desk. And this company now started referring us to other clients who were also hedge funds. It was a no-brainer referral. They'd be in a hedge fund setting up a new desk. They'd say, oh, we have computer guys that get how to do this. We recommend Mike's company. That is the power of the vendor network or vendor referrals. I suggest you guys don't pursue client referrals anymore, at least not the way you were. Instead, ask your clients for complementary vendors, vendors that you can work with. And once you improve your services for your mutual client, you can now work with those vendors to expand into more clients. That was the biggest turning point in my company. We went from almost now $1 million in revenue to $2 million in revenue almost overnight. The trading company and Goldman Sachs was another vendor we worked with, was referring clients to us left and right because we knew how to work with them. We knew how to service a hedge fund. And the hedge funds, when we were going in there, they were hearing our name everywhere anyway because we were ordering frequently. We were always in the same spot. That's the power of vendor referrals. The last part of the pumpkin plan strategy is the pruning process. You know, the ordinary pumpkin farmer, as different plants come up, they let them go. The rule of thumb is the more plants that are growing, the better. The interesting thing with the colossal pumpkin farmer is when one pumpkin is showing potential, it's the strongest sprout, it's growing, they're focusing on it. If another pumpkin comes up that's smaller, they actually kill it instantly. And they don't say like, oh, I'm really sorry, this is awkward, little pumpkin, I'm going to have to give you 7 weeks notice, you know. No, the second a small pumpkin shows itself, they cut it. The second weeds start coming up, they yank it. Nothing is permitted to take away from that colossal pumpkin. Well, ordinary entrepreneurs, they let the weeds grow. The weeds are, how can we expand our customer base? What else can we do? What other types of customers can we service? Another weed is opportunity. Actually, in fact, that's the most common weed. Ooh, we have a new opportunity in doing this new service we never did before. Ooh, there's a new opportunity here. The extraordinary entrepreneur knows if they take their eye off the colossal pumpkin, the one niche that they're servicing, the one niche that they're growing, the clients that they're replicating and cloning, if they pursue new opportunities, new products or new service offerings, without first mastering that colossal pumpkin, they know the colossal pumpkin's not going to make it. So, the extraordinary entrepreneur focuses on removing any distractions constantly. There's an amazing study out there about how effective this is. Do you know the extraordinary entrepreneur, the person that grows those colossal businesses, they say no 10 times more than they say yes. Yet ordinary entrepreneurs, the ones that struggle forever, say yes 10 times more than they say no. Fascinating. It's a discipline of saying no, yanking those weeds that grows the colossal pumpkin. So that's the pumpkin growing strategy. Now, there's one final thing that is kind of interesting. There is no promise or guarantee that using the method of growing a colossal pumpkin is going to guarantee success in your business. This method works, but also just like growing a colossal pumpkin, if you start a giant seed, you pick the strongest sprout and so forth, sometimes the weather doesn't play out. Bad weather comes and it kills the plant. Sometimes a pumpkin actually can grow so fast it splits in half under its own weight. But the colossal pumpkin farmer doesn't care. If the pumpkin fails, he knows the method is right. It didn't work on that seed. He, next season, goes out and plants a new seed and does the exact same process again. Because inevitably, it will yield a colossal pumpkin. And the same is true for colossal pumpkin farmers. Colossal entrepreneurs. They know that if they focus on the business and it fails to yield a colossal business, that the next season, the next year or whatever, they can start the exact same process on a new version of the business and try to grow a colossal business. It doesn't work every time, but the method works, and one of the times it will, hopefully on the first try. The only guarantee in pumpkin farming is with the ordinary pumpkin farmer. The ordinary pumpkin farmer will never, ever grow a colossal pumpkin. The method they follow of the quantity game actually prohibits that from happening. It's never happened in the past. It never will happen. A huge pumpkin won't just miraculously grow. So the only guarantee is with the ordinary pumpkin farmer. They'll never have colossal success. Well, the funny thing is for ordinary entrepreneurs, if you continue the path that has yielded the ordinary, you are guaranteed, and you're continuing to follow that process, you are guaranteed never to grow an extraordinary business, a colossal business. The only way is to make this 5% change. So the challenge I want to put out to everyone listening right now is if you're dissatisfied with where your business has been, if you are continuing the pattern of working harder at doing what you've done and it's not yielding results, I encourage you to give it a shot, the pumpkin plan. Give the shot of growing your business in a new way. Get back to overlapping your passion with customer needs and scalability. Make sure you're focusing on your strongest clients and trying to replicate them and actually firing your weak clients. Start watering frequently, marketing to where your top clients are constantly. Be the only name in that industry. Be the person that people are most aware of in that industry because you're there so much. Then focus on the vendors, the vendor referral system. Don't ask for client referrals anymore. That rarely works well. Focus on vendor referrals. That works extraordinarily well all the time. And the final thing is don't get distracted anymore. Start saying no 10 times more than you say yes. Keep all your attentions on a colossal pumpkin. And I can promise you, if you follow that, your business has a real chance at going big time. And that's it, Daniel. That's what I wanted to share. That's the overview.
Okay, hey guys, questions. Manden preguntas si gustan por el panel aquí de preguntas. Y voy a empezar yo. Tengo, Mike, I was just telling them to send the questions through the question dashboard. But I'll start. Right. I have some questions myself. I really like the vendor reference. I never thought about that. We always ask for client reference or other people in the industry, but we never think of vendors. So what kind of vendors, how do you, they have vendors of all types. What kind of vendors do you think you should look for? Someone that does something very similar or someone that does something different?
Interestingly enough, it ends up, I found, to be the most different businesses. It sounds a little crazy. Now, I call them complementary vendors, Daniel, which means vendors that don't compete against you. So when I did computer networks, if I went out and looked for other people that did computer networks, obviously we wouldn't be referring business to each other. It was in trading desks, which you would never think a trading desk guy could refer business to me. But when I found that there was a light connection there, that we ran wire through the trading desk, there became a great opportunity. And because the vendor's so different from me, they didn't have other computer vendors reaching out to them. So I would look for other vendors that first your customers love. If your customer just turns you into a vendor but doesn't like them, you're not looking at the right vendor. Find another vendor that your customer is thrilled about and says they provide great service, because that means they're the same caliber as you. Then, the more different they are, maybe you do financials and the other vendor that this customer loves paints buildings. I don't know, but maybe there's some kind of overlap there. Get the meeting and start discussing and talking about it. It will reveal itself. Just one quick example I think is fascinating was there was a case study of a security company that provided security systems for houses with motion detectors. They found a way to partner with local TV stations on identifying what's called Nielsen ratings. And basically what Nielsen rating is when someone's watching TV, Nielsen reports back to that TV channel how many people are watching it so they can gauge the number of viewers. The problem with TV today is many people leave their television on, they walk out of the room, or there's a DVR recording and there's not a person actually watching it. Well, the security companies were able to identify if someone's in a specific room because they have motion detectors. They were able to partner up with the TV company, and were able to get the permission of the homeowner to find out if the homeowner was sitting in that room. So there's these really unique partnerships that can be worked out if you're willing to sit down with another vendor that services your same customer but is very different than you to find these opportunities.
That's very creative. I really like that. Another question I have here, a question from Manuel. It's asking about the, do we must transform the weak clients into strong clients for a better result? What about the loyalty that they've been buying for us? Remember the Pareto rule, 80-20, but we have the opportunity to transform the 20 into 80s and get them new market opportunities? Or what do you think about that? Do you transition them or do you fire them?
Well, when I say fire, I definitely transition softly. I don't call my customers and say, oh, I'm sorry, it's done, you're too small. The problem is there's definitely loyalty. The thing is, if you stay with your smallest customers, they will take so much time requirement that you'll never be able to grow. So your growth is restricted by staying with these small clients. So I often transition them. I will find a competitor of mine that's servicing smaller clients. So maybe it's a great client, but there's just no money there. I will refer them to a competitor of mine. Sometimes they are nasty clients. They're just super demanding. They're unreasonable. Those clients I fire. But the only way to grow is by getting rid of them. And just one warning is as your business starts growing and you focus in on the bigger clients and transition out your smaller clients, those smaller clients may see you as what I call a sellout. This happens with rock bands all the time. A new rock band will come out and they'll get a cult following initially, right? But then when they hit mainstream, they have a popular following, that initial cult following will say, hey, you're ignoring us. You've sold out to the big scene now. Yeah. And they get some resistance from that cult following. Every business I've studied, as they've transitioned into the bigger scale, the small clients say, oh, you're selling out. You're going mainstream. So you have to just be ready for that transition. You're already getting resistance from the small clients. Of course, they're going to want to keep you. But if you want your business to grow, it's a necessary step to either fire them or softly transition them out to someone else.
I remember in the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, Tim Ferriss, he calls two of his clients that you cannot buy through my company anymore if you do not order by fax. You're not a non-welcome client. And one of them never bought again, and one of them been buying by fax. And he bought several years after that.
Yeah. You know, in another story is I have a friend through EO, just like you, Daniel, I'm an EO member, and I have a friend through EO. His business was about a $5 million US business. He grew it to $20 million in 2 years by firing Walmart. So wow. a bad client does not necessarily mean it's a small client. A bad client in his case was the cringe factor. He sold
your smiley face.
Yeah, exactly, the smiley face. His name is Joe. He sold those wristbands for like Live Strong from Lance Armstrong and different wristbands, those little plastic things. And Walmart was so demanding on their expectations and paid so low on price that he had to modify his business every single time just to service Walmart. Well, he fired them and was able to focus in on Dollar General and these other stores, at least in the U.S., that were number 2 and 3 revenue-wise, but they were smiley faces, not a frowny face. Once he got rid of them, he was able to better cater to these second-tier clients. They took off. They started tripling and quadrupling their demand orders through him, and his business just exploded. The other interesting thing was by learning what these customers needed and really catering to them, other even smaller customers got the trickle-down benefit. Joe's systems improved. The way Joe got a routine down, just like Tim Ferriss, only takes orders via fax. Joe is now take orders a certain way and not have to cater to what Walmart's uniquenesses were, and really mastered his one way of doing things, and his business grew explosively.
In the workshops I teach, I call Walmart the Robin Hood of today. They usually steal from the providers, the rich guys, and give to the small ones, and it's true.
It's true.
I don't know any provider that really likes to sell to Walmart.
Yeah, that is great.
Hey, I have here some more questions about the vendor referrals. I have like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
how do you actually execute the strategy of getting vendor referrals?
Okay.
Do you ask your customer for vendor referrals, and then you meet with all of them, or what do you do?
That's basically it. So what you do is first identify your best customers. Don't ask for your vendor referrals from all customers, because recognize your best customer is likely connected with a vendor that specializes in customers just like them. If you go to your worst customer and ask for vendor referrals, it's likely that that vendor is also servicing other customers like them, which are bad customers. So first, you need to identify your best customers. Then go to the customer and ask them for the vendor referrals. But ask them not just because you're looking for vendors. Tell them, I want to, and you have to be genuine about this, but I want to service you better, customer. I want to deliver a better product or a better service to you. And one way I can do it is if I know the other vendors that you like working with, perhaps I can build a relationship with them, and collectively we can be more efficient, or we can deliver even a better service to you collectively.
I think that's a key. If you tell them, if you introduce me to them, we could find a way to give you better service.
Yes, and it's the beautiful thing. It's the absolute truth. It's the honest truth. And when you call that vendor, it's a very easy meeting to get, because you call them and say, guess what? We share a mutual client. We both service, this client. It's my client, it's your client. So of course they'll meet with you. You have a common ground. And you tell them, my objective is to service them better. I want to see what I can do to complement you. And you meet with them, you find ways that you can complement each other. Then, when you start improving your service for this new client, you say, hey, do you happen to have other clients like them? Perhaps we can work together on other opportunities. Or maybe you have clients that they could share. But you look for referrals from each other. And it's likely, if they have one client that you service, it's likely they have other clients just like them. So that's the process.
Okay. There's a question. What happens with the risk of staying with few clients? When you fire or you transition somebody with small clients, then you have a few clients. What happens if you're not able to pick up more clients?
So, here's the risk. If you don't fire small clients, you can't take on more clients because you'll be spread too thin. Recognize we are limited in a few capacities, the amounts of financial resources we have, but we're also limited in time resources. And I'm not just saying you as the owner of the business, but all your employees. If you have 2 employees or 200 employees, it doesn't matter. You are limited in your resources and availability of time. If you don't get rid of any small customers, you don't have space to take on a new customer. A new customer may present themselves, and you don't even see them because your salespeople are out servicing small customers. Or a new big customer may come on, but you can only do a little bit of work with them because now you're at capacity. If you get rid of small customers, you will free up time, which now allows you the space to take on big customers. But here's the most interesting part, Daniel, is as you get rid of small customers, you get rid of very little revenue. These are the lower echelon clients revenue-wise, usually. And if you get rid of a small revenue customer, you don't lose much money, but you in fact gain a lot of time, because often if you look at your list now of your customers, some of those small customers with a frowny face take a lot of time and make very little revenue. Literally to the point, I had one client of mine I was working with, we fired 5 clients. We freed up, it was a small company, it was 10 employees, but we freed up 40 hours a week by getting rid of 10 clients, and we only lost about $5,000 in revenue.
Wow.
We were now able to take on a new big client that generated $10,000 in revenue, so double the revenue, and only took 10 hours a week. So we compressed time, less time was needed, and bigger revenue came in. But the first step is getting rid of small clients that take a lot of time but generate very little revenue and are distracting.
Awesome. Francisco asking, he's in insurance sales on referrals. What kind of referrals, like doctors, or what do you think in the insurance sales area? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so first you start thinking about the obvious. I would absolutely look at doctors, but I would think everyone else is looking at that too. There's a little question I like to ask myself when looking for vendors. And what I ask myself is, who is the person talking to my client right before I am? So for example, in my second company, I had a computer crime investigation company. That company, I didn't share the story when I was giving my little presentation there, but that company grew from 0 to a run of $7.5 million in revenue, bootstrapped the whole way in 2.5 years, and I sold it to a Fortune 500. And when I opened my business, I asked myself exactly that question: who was servicing my client before? And what it was when a client, we did white-collar crime investigation. We investigated Enron, was one of our biggest cases, and other cases like that. When Enron happened, I would ask myself, not the Enron case specifically, but when white-collar crimes happened, I said, who does this person talk to right before me? Well, right before they talk to me, they talk to their lawyer. And say, okay, who do they talk to before their lawyer? Well, before they talk to their lawyer, because it's crime, they may be talking with law enforcement. They may be getting indicted or arrested. And I went through this list of sequence of people they talked to, and law enforcement and lawyers were the two right before me. So then what I did was I built relationships with lawyers using that vendor referral strategy. I built relations with law enforcement, and for us that was the CIA, the FBI a lot, and the ATF. And we built relations, and shockingly, the FBI and ATF would refer projects to us. We built such a good reputation of being honest in the business that they gladly were pointing opportunities our way. And the lawyers, of course, referred stuff our way too. So for insurance, yeah, doctors are potentially the obvious one. But the question is, who else does your customer talk to before they speak to you? Are they writing a will? Their last will and testament, maybe that triggers a need for life insurance or thoughts about it. Maybe they're speaking with an accountant because they're forming a partnership and they need to plan that out. So to ask that question, who do your clients speak to right before they would talk to you, and try to build relations with those people?
I get it. Okay. There's other questions regarding that, but like, when is the right time to begin doing that? If you're a small company, it's difficult to fire or don't take care of the small clients. What in your experience, when is the right time to begin being selective with your clients?
Yeah, so this process is scary, and this is where the entrepreneurs I've worked with, Daniel, trip up. They say, I can't do it. People get caught in this syndrome, which I call the one more syndrome. And the one more syndrome is this: if I just had one more major client, if I just got one more investment in my business, if I had one more hour a day, I would be home free. The thing is that one more never comes. The big client may come, but you'll see you never break free. Here's when you should start firing small clients. When you identify a key client that's working, a great client, that's when you must take the first step of firing your weakest client and not focusing in on that best client and trying to replicate them. Okay. So the first step is go through this assessment. If you can't assess any of your clients to be your best clients, if none of them are top clients, maybe some bring in some good money, but they all make you cringe, then it's still too early. Then keep playing around until you find the best client. But once you find the best client, that's the time to go into this cloning process. Ironically, the earlier you do it in your business, the easier it is. You know it's terrifying to fire a weak client because, like, my God, I'm going to lose that money. Try firing a weak client when you have more revenue. Then it becomes even more scary, and you're more trapped in what you're doing. So if you can identify a best client, now, as scary as it is, now, today is the time to start getting rid of the weak clients and build that courage to get rid of weak clients and prove to yourself you can replicate the best clients. Clone them.
All right, awesome. Let me check one more. Someone wrote, "It's amazing this opportunity to share this time with you. I have had see you at YouTube and now this. Wow, just pitched this."
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Sorry, interesting analogy between modern companies and pumpkin farm. Thanks a lot. Wonderful experience.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure. And it's everyone. Thanks to Daniel. Daniel reached out to me. Daniel, you and I have known each other for 10 years or more now. Yep. And Daniel reached out when I came out with this book and said, I want to support you in spreading this word. I believe in what you're saying, Mike. And so I'm going to put together this community. And we're going to put together this event. And I appreciate this. I don't really get an opportunity too often to speak to the Latin community. And the fact you guys are giving me access to speak with you and share the strategy, it's huge for me. It gets me excited. And I hope at least one person, I know this is scary stuff, so I hope at least one person on this call, maybe it's you, the one person on this call just tries the strategy. I promise if you have the courage to stick with this for a year, that's what I call it the season, if you can stick one season through this, I've never had it not yield positive results. So go for it.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very, very much. People are sending a lot of thank yous, and it was awesome. Thank you very, very much. It was great to get directly from the author. The parking plan, it's weird. You never realize the similarities between a business and a parking farm.
Yeah. It blew my mind away when I found it too. It's the weirdest thing.
So that's awesome. Congratulations. So anything just to close?
Well, yeah. So if you want the book, obviously you can go to Amazon or Barnes & Nobles. Is Pumpkin Plan. Just type in Pumpkin Plan. But there's also a website, pumpkinplan.com. You can download, no matter where you are in the world, a free chapter, so you can kind of dip your toes in for free and check it out. And there's some other resources up there. There's a resource for doing this client assessment. It's a free tool. It's a spreadsheet that will walk you through the process of assessing your clients. There's a lot more than just those 2 key columns I gave you. There's about 10 or 15 assessment columns in there, and hopefully that'll help you get started on this.
A lot of people are asking if you have the book already in Audible.
Yes. Yeah, it's in Audible. I read the book myself. Maybe you couldn't tell from this because I'm in my room right now. The room I'm in is about 90 degrees. My air conditioner broke. So I'm a little bit dragging. But on the Audible, I recorded myself. It's a super high-energy read of the book. It's available for download off Amazon right now. It's a 6-hour runtime through the whole book, unabridged. I'm really proud of that Audible version. Hope you guys like that.
Great. Thank you, Pilar. Hey, also, he has a blog called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. Fantastic blog. I really, really like it. I get my, couple of times a week, I get emails from Mike. I strongly recommend that you subscribe to that. Yeah, I put it there. It's really, really good. All right. Thank you all. Mike, thank you very, very much for your time. We really appreciate you dedicating the time to us. And we recorded the webinar. We're going to put it in Capital Emprendedor so people could hear it again if they want to hear it again, or send it to a friend. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye.